Welcome back to another episode of the Gooner Fanzine podcast. Freddie enjoying his holiday this week, and is he joining us from hers? It seems like you drew the short straw there, jumping on the pod while you're away. But yeah, there's not too much going on at the moment. So obviously, it's just been international break. We're coming off the back of still riding the highs of that Champions League final. I fear this isn't going to be a case of how many times can we bring it up before it becomes old news. But I think we're going to be talking about it long into next season as well. But yeah, great to have you here with us today, Izzy. I wanted to start with mainly the big story that's come out from Arsenal, probably one of the only ones that we've actually heard from the club, obviously given the quiet period after the end of the season. But Arsenal did announce this week that the Emirates Stadium will host all 11 WSL matches in the 25-26 season, making obviously the Emirates Stadium now the main home of Arsenal women. Obviously, that's building off the back of the 9 WSL matches that were hosted there last season. Average attendance of 34,110, which obviously we talked about so much, is incredible. Obviously, a little bit for me, I'm a little bit sad about Meadow Park, and I did kind of want to start with that point first because I love Meadow Park and Bournemouth. I think it's great. Obviously, it's huge for the women's game that Arsenal are playing at the Emirates. But it does feel I don't know if you feel that way too, but it does kind of feel a little bit sad that we're drifting away from that. Obviously, it's had such great games and great moments, and obviously great atmosphere as well.
Yeah, definitely. I've absolutely loved it every time I've been to Meadow Park. My first Arsenal women's games were at Meadow Park, and it's just like it's something special. It's a very difficult place for teams to come to try and beat Arsenal there. It's an atmosphere that's completely unmatched in any other of the WSL kind of women's football stadiums because it's just so tightly packed in, and all the stands sort of really close to the pitch with all the fans packed together singing the songs. I feel like it's just so loud from all around the pitch. It's absolutely brilliant. There's been some really cold, horrible nights there, some brilliant end of season summary matches there, and I think holds a lot of memories for a lot of people. But it's nice that some of the cup games will still be played there this season, so people still have a chance to go. And I'd say if you haven't been, definitely try and get there before Arsenal move away from there altogether. But yeah, such a special place. But I think in order to move forward and keep Arsenal's kind of presence as this big club in women's football, just got to keep playing at the Emirates. And I think this season we've seen a real turn in the Emirates becoming such a fortress for like maybe Meadow Park was before. And I think that that's going to be huge going forward to try and win much more silverware in the future.
Yeah, definitely. So, like you said, Champions League knockout rounds, they're still, sorry, the Champions League league phase matches, they're going to be played at Meadow Park. Obviously, the knockout round, should we qualify, they'll be at the Emirates. Other games, all cup fixtures, so FA Cup, Subway Cup, still going to be played at Meadow Park. So we still have, it's nice in a way because we still have those games where we can have, like you say, it means so much to so many people. And if you haven't been, yes, you've definitely got to go. Lots of improvements being made, which is nice to see to Meadow Park. Obviously, Arsenal have signed a further contract, I think, so they're going to be obviously wanting to continue that going forward. I think the women are always going to kind of need that second stadium. Hopefully, like you say, we push for more and more at the Emirates, but obviously the youth teams and academy teams of Arsenal use it. There's going to be better floodlighting, better CCTV. I think they're thinking about around the stadium as well. Sort of if you've ever trudged across that park when it's dark and cold and muddy to try and get in and out of the stadium, it can be quite difficult. So hopefully all of those things only have a positive effect on obviously the fans going and everything like that. So yeah, looking forward to still being able to go to the Meadow Park here and there. But for the Emirates games, it's going to be a season ticket. This is the first time that they've kind of introduced a season ticket for the Emirates Stadium. They had the home advantage packs last season. You can still purchase the 6 game bundle if you're not sure you want to commit to all 11. And these are going to be sold in July, so you've still got a little bit of time to kind of decide what works best. And obviously fixtures will be confirmed later in the summer as well, on the 6 game bundle. I think obviously it's kind of expected. It's been a huge season for Arsenal, but did you kind of expect that Arsenal would make this move, kind of all 11 games there? Did you kind of think that it was guaranteed, and what are your thoughts on this in general, about the move?
Well, I mean, I think last season there was a lot of talk of this is now Arsenal women's main home, and it kind of it was, but it wasn't. It was a little bit in between. So this sounds a little bit more committal from the club, which is great. I'm hoping that there's no scheduling issues with Premier League matches, FA Cup men's matches. That means matches are going to have to move again because that was a real kind of step backwards, I think, from the club's perspective. Obviously, there's a lot of moving parts involved in those decisions, but I do think that they've got to make the decision at some point, and off the back of such a huge trophy, here we go, mentioning it again, Champions League final. I think that it's the right time to do it. You saw how many people turned up to those trophy celebrations at the Emirates on the Monday after the match, and I think that that is a real kind of testament to all the work the club's done in the community with the fans to try and grow this massive atmosphere. And hopefully that will translate into next season and people will be really excited to go. It's a lot easier to get to as well for people. So hopefully they'll have some kind of part in getting more crowds there. And I think the season ticket's super cool. I think they should really try and encourage people to get these season tickets because it will be the first one, as you said, and it in a few years' time you might not be able to get them. There might be a waiting list again. So it will be cool to be part of that first year of Emirates season tickets. And I think it's a good move from the club for sure.
Absolutely, yeah. And you mentioned the atmosphere then, and that was one thing I wanted to touch on because it's sort of the start of last season, or potentially towards the start of last season, we talked about moving from Meadow Park to the Emirates and playing more games there. And one of the big kind of question marks or things we weren't sure about was how that would reflect in the atmosphere. I know the club did a lot to move from the previous season to last season into the Block 10, try and build that, bring the noise section. I talked about how at the start of last season it was really difficult. It felt kind of really quiet. I don't know if that was around circumstances of how the team were playing at the time, and obviously it's a bit different now. We're in a better place and we're performing, and that obviously made the atmosphere a lot better. But I think for me, it's definitely something that the club and the supporters club can build on. I know there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes, trying to make that kind of happen. Things like we had the lyrics on the screen of the chants. Some people like that, some people didn't. We had the fan walks prior, the meetups. Obviously, we talked about recently playing such a huge part in that, but building, I think, do you think this atmosphere is something we can really kind of work on this season? Is it something that obviously Meadow Park's always going to be different, but I think the Emirates, it can have an atmosphere at times, can't it? And especially in those big games, North London derbies, those Champions League matches, there definitely was the sort of something building there, and I'm hoping they can continue that into next season. Or into the season coming up? What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's not even about the number of people there. It's about building a community of people who go regularly enough to know the chants, to know the players, and to just get a bit more invested in what's going on rather than just being there for a kind of cheap day out at the football, which is obviously great as well and great to see kids and stuff there. But I think those nights with less attendance, which was the Champions League second leg against Real Madrid, there was I think 20,000 something there. Everyone played every ball with the team, and obviously that's it's high stakes game, so that plays a part. But I think everyone there was so invested in what was going on, and so the atmosphere was great. But then even a few weeks later, there was the game against Leicester City at the Emirates, and there was I think only maybe 7,000 people there, and the atmosphere was still great because it was 7,000 of the most dedicated fans who'd gone because it was a sort of weekday in the evening, quite a late kickoff kind of situation. So a lot of people had travelled and they were the ones who were going to really build that atmosphere. So it's not about the crowd size. Obviously, we love to break attendance records and see those numbers on the screen. But yeah, I think it's about building regular fans who are going to keep coming back. And I don't know how the club can do that. But I think the season ticket will help because you'll have little kids who'll grow up with these Arsenal season tickets and they'll keep coming back with their families and people will get really into it. And I think that'll really help.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. And I think exactly like you say, it's going to be a huge move for the club and also for the growth of the game and for the future of the game. And it's so glad that Arsenal are kind of leading the way. And it does kind of make you feel proud that our club is the one that's doing that. So lots to look forward to, but we'll update you obviously when we hear more across the summer about that. I wanted to quickly reflect on obviously the international break. Last week we did sort of a Q&A episode and it was just before the international break. So we didn't touch too much on that, but it was quite a good international break for a lot of our players, especially Champions League hero Stina Blackstenius, who got a hat trick in a 6-1 win at home to Denmark. She played, I think it was about 70 minutes of the game, and obviously Sweden are now going to the finals of the Nations League. Really, really great performance from her. Obviously, building off the bat of that goal, it seems like Stina's in fantastic form at the moment, isn't she? And it's only reflected even further. She must be playing with confidence, which I think is really great.
Definitely, and some of those goals were sort of classic Stina Blackstenius shots. She doesn't ever make it easy for herself. And yeah, I think she's just had not hasn't had enough game time this season, and she hasn't been able to to build that confidence because Russo's been on such good form and there's not always space for them to play together. Frida Maanum's obviously been great as well. So it's about finding that balance and getting her playing enough to have these moments of confidence. Because in the Champions League final, she came on and obviously scored the winner and has gone into international camp probably full of confidence and lots of encouragement from her teammates because they've seen her just achieve it on a massive European stage. So then she went and scored a hat trick on another European stage. So it's really exciting to see because we know she can be amazing. And Renee's always very full of praise for her about her physicality and her speed and how she's able to get in behind. But she's just been suffering with the offsides and the kind of missing a lot of shots and just not enough minutes. So I'm hoping going into next season, because we know she's going to be here for at least another season, that we'll see a little bit more of her and what we've seen of her in the past. Because yeah, she's got so much potential.
Absolutely, and yeah, selected in the Euro squad as well. That was announced not long ago, I think a couple of hours ago now. But big summer ahead for her. She could be one to watch. I know Sweden have obviously impressed a lot in the Nations League. I've been watching a lot of the highlights, and definitely a team to watch in terms of being a contender to win the Euros or to go really far in the competition. Obviously, last Euros they were unfortunately on the other end of that 4-0 England win that saw England go through to the final, but definitely lots obviously to consider. Yeah, in that Nations League game, Lena Herzig also scored a goal, which is showing obviously the confidence that's instilled. Unfortunately, she's departing this summer, but lots to look for in Sweden, and especially those Arsenal player Stila Batsanias as well. Obviously, we saw that disappointing loss for England, Spain beating them 2-1. Claudia Pina, fantastic player, obviously, scoring twice. But Alessia Russo got the opener with a perfect Russo goal. I don't think there's a goal that I've seen that was more Alessia Russo than that. Sort of runs in behind and sort of curls it past the keeper. She played 87 minutes in that game. Chloe Kelly obviously coming on for Beth Mead. Leah played the full 90. Lotto Bemoy and Michelle Aguiman selected in that Nations League squad but didn't feature. But we'll obviously talk about that when we talk about the Lionesses squad that's been picked for the Euros. Spain, obviously, with Mariona qualified for the Nations League final. They're being held in October, so we can obviously come back to that when they happen. And prior to that, England obviously having a positive performance, then a not so positive performance. I wanted to touch on that quickly. Obviously, a lot of Arsenal players included in that England squad, and they sort of come to Wembley, beat Portugal 6-0, a fantastic performance. Beth Mead, Chloe Kelly on the score sheet, Leah Williamson featured in that too. And then they go into this game against Spain, and it just feels a bit lackluster, a bit sort of they weren't really on it at all, and they obviously lose 2-1. Want to get your thoughts on that, but specifically, obviously, the Arsenal players that we can pick out there, who some of them had good performances across both games, regardless.
Yeah, I don't know if it was something to do with all the departures and the announcements of people missing Euros, that there was just something in the water at camp that maybe was slightly off center and people were not quite themselves and the team wasn't gelling as a unit so well. But against Spain, the first half and the second half, it was just like two totally different sides for both teams. But England just yeah, in the second half, Spain just walked all over them, and it was quite disappointing to see and quite worrying going into the summer because the last Euros, England leading up to the competition were in such flying form and putting in some incredible performances. So this is a little bit worrying going in, but England are a tournament team. They tend to do well in a tournament setup. So I'm hoping it was just a blip and there was kind of other external factors that influence that performance. But yeah, some good performances from the Arsenal players. It's good to see, especially that Chloe Kelly's kind of from not being picked just before she moved, and then getting her minutes at Arsenal, and then going straight back into the Lionesses squad, and seeming to be quite popular with Serena now, which I think is fantastic because that's exactly what she wanted. She never wanted to be written off for playing for England because we do see that when players stop playing for England, it seems to be that it's quite hard to break back in, especially under Serena Wiegman. So it's great that she's managed to cement herself back in there, and great to see that Leah will be wearing the armband again because we know from Arsenal that she's such a great leader, and hopefully she can lead England to another Euros victory again.
Absolutely, yeah. And one person that doesn't seem to be worried is is England boss Serena Wiegman, who sort of brushed off the journalist after, who mentioned, are you concerned this loss to Spain? Even Leah doing the interview after, she didn't seem concerned. It's obviously a huge learning opportunity. That's what they always say. And yeah, like you say, England always seem to show up in the tournaments, and we can hope that they'll continue to do so under Serena Wiegman. But not too much more to say about that international break, really. Obviously, it's coming just before the Euros, but it's also coming off the back of a huge season so many of those players. I mean, you could see it in some of the Chelsea players who have played the full season. A lot of them looking tired and have, rightly so, achieved so much in club football, and obviously the Arsenal players too. But the main, obviously, talking point really is that Lionesses squad and obviously the Euro squads that have been selected. Six Arsenal players selected in Serena Wiegmann's England squad going to the Euros: Leah Williamson, Alessia Russo, Beth Mead, Chloe Kelly, and the incredible inclusion of Lotte Wubben-Moy and 19-year-old Michelle Aguiman. Huge congratulations to them all. It's such a huge achievement, obviously, to be picked for your country. But the big talking points have to be inclusion of Lotte and Michelle. Let's start with Lotte first. Obviously, Millie Bright withdraws from the squad, bravely so, opens up about her mental and physical health and has decided to step back, not make herself available so that somebody else can get the spot. It's a really brave thing to do and to talk about. And obviously, we seen Chloe Kelly coming out, and a lot of players now coming out and being open about their personal circumstances. But it has opened up a spot, I think, for Lotte to come in, who has had a tough season with injuries. Previous season, she was player of the season and was fantastic, and she's still got so much to prove. Recent contract extension. How much of a role do you kind of see her playing in this Euros? Because we know Serena can be quite strict with the team that she picks, and if you kind of, she always mentions everybody's got a role, everybody's, part of the squad. But do you think there is an opportunity for Lotte, or do you think she's gonna sort of come on, or maybe just kind of be part of the squad? How do you see that sort of playing out? I know it's hard to predict sort of Serena Wiegmann's mindset, but do you see there being a role for Lotte in this Euros?
I'd like to see her get some minutes in this Euros. I think it will really, really depend how the performances are going because,
Yeah.
and obviously we won't know till we get there and in the summer in Switzerland. I think she is has always been slightly on the cusp of Serena Wiegmann's England squad. She tends to get called up on standby or as a replacement when someone else drops out. And I can't say that that can be very good for her confidence as an England player. And she's not then had a lot of minutes apart from when England have got a what they think of as sort of easier opponent, and then they'll put on a slightly different starting 11, and Lotte would then be included. So I wonder how confident she does feel stepping onto the pitch in an England shirt. I think it would be great if she came on, if England were winning, just to build up that confidence, just in case she's needed in later games, if we get out of the group and things like that. I do think without Millie Bright there's obviously a space in defence, and that's why she's been called up. But there are a lot of defenders on that team list. And so I don't know if she's definitely if she would take the spot over someone like Maya Letitia or someone who's played a lot more regular minutes this season and is feeling a little bit more confident with their football. So I think we'll see, but I'm sure she brings a very calm presence to the squad, which is definitely useful in those tournament setups. Calming, she's played with a lot of those players before at Arsenal, so I think it's not a bad decision to bring her, but I'm not sure how heavily she'll feature on the pitch
Absolutely,
anyway.
absolutely, yeah. And I think that's one of the things, like, one thing I have seen from Serena in recent games is she is sort of experimenting a little bit more than usual with the defense. She's played Esme Morgan, she's played Alex Greenwood alongside Leah. She's experimented a little bit with kind of Neve Charles, Jess Carter, maybe playing someone else there. We're not kind of like you say with Millie Bright coming out, we're not kind of got a lot of options, and being able to build stability at the back is clearly going to be huge for England. We've seen a few kind of moments with Spain where teams like that with real quality have been able to break down that defence that obviously has been so rock solid in the past. So it really is interesting to see if with a defender you're in a difficult position as well, because you don't really bring on a defender usually for impact. On the other hand, Michelle Aguiman, 19 years old, first major tournament, selected and trusted by Serena Wiegmann. That one might be a different scenario because she did make a huge impact in her first senior game that she played after scoring a worldy goal after 41 seconds. She's obviously a really promising young talent. She was on loan at Brighton this season, returned now to Arsenal. We still don't know what kind of the future for her looks like. We've praised her a lot and hope Arsenal will keep her, even if it means loaning her out or giving her more game time. But this is one Serena might turn to, especially if she's looking for an impact sub. Do you think this is kind of a different scenario for Michelle as an attacker? Could she have more of an impact potentially and more of a chance if England are needing to change the game up at any point?
Yeah, I think that's exactly why she's been called up because we've seen her in that game against Belgium come on and score with her first touch. And obviously, you can say that that could be a little bit fluky, a brilliant pass over to her, and she was in the right position, but it was a great goal. And I think that she could almost play a little bit of a role as Ella Toone did in the last Euros, where you're not going to start, and you know you're not going to start, but as you said, everyone has a role, and Michelle will know that her role is not as a starter, but to possibly come on in those difficult situations, get into those tight spaces, get in behind, and make something happen at the last minute to try and turn something around. And I think that that's so important to have in a tournament, to have some tricks up your sleeve that you can bring out just to change the dynamic and make an impact. And I think she could be really important for that. We've seen her perform really well at the younger age groups of England, and I think her loan season at Brighton would have been really good for her confidence. She hasn't been starting a lot, but she's had some really good performances. So, yeah, I'm really hoping that she could have some kind of wonder goal moment in the Euros and become a bit of an England hero. We'll see, but it's great to see that Serena's trusted her, and I hope we do see a bit of game time for her as well.
Definitely. And as Arsenal fans, we're hoping she gets her Chloe Kelly moment at some point where she wins it for England or she comes on and gets the assist or makes an impact in some way. But yeah, fantastic player, obviously very strong, very, clinical. She's obviously improving a lot because she's still 19 years old, but she was Brighton's young player of the season and she was obviously on loan as well. So that just shows kind of the opportunity that she was given and she's taken it. She's a bit like what we are saying before about Stina being behind Russo at club. You're seeing that with Aggie Beaver-Jones and Michelle Aguiman being behind Alessia Russo, who's obviously one of the best strikers right now, in great form. And obviously going into this Euros is probably going to be Serena's number. Well, Serena's come out and basically said she's going to be the number 9. So there's lots of talent on the bench, which I think England are going to need, looking at the way they've been performing. And also, we know like how much these tournaments can, the way you perform in a tournament like this can reflect the following season. Arsenal have obviously got to make a decision about Michelle Aguiman. We don't kind of know anything about that just yet, whether she will stay next season and kind of push to be in the starting or maybe even play in the cup games, but also kind of be an impact sub for Arsenal. But how much do you think her performance in the Euros could actually reflect on Arsenal's decision sort of going into next season? If she has a really good tournament, there might even be a potential for her to stay at Arsenal and kind of prove herself and fight her way into that obviously really competitive squad.
Yeah, I think definitely if she doesn't get any minutes in the Euros, they'll probably Arsenal will probably think she's not ready for that level of football. She needs to go maybe even until January on loan and just
Yeah.
have a little bit more experience and a bit more time on the pitch. But yeah, if she comes on and makes these kind of magic moments happen during a tournament and yeah, does some amazing things and shows her potential and her skill, then they might well keep her because we've seen them keep Katie Reid this season, which has been great. And she's come on and she's had some great moments and obviously has also had times where she's been put on and it could have maybe been a little bit too much too soon. But you can see the potential there, and I think Michelle Agyemang's the same. You can see that she's got this amazing potential to become a brilliant player. Well, she's already great, but to become even better. So I think, yeah, I don't think Arsenal will want to sell her for sure either way. I think they'll definitely keep her around for a bit, whether that's on loan or at the club. But I'd like to see her stay at Arsenal for a bit and see how she fits into that team because we haven't really seen that before. We haven't seen her get a lot of time with these girls, but she obviously knows them well. She's been at the academy. She's been in training with the first team. So yeah, I think it will be really interesting to see how the summer impacts that. But hopefully she has a great summer.
Absolutely. And I think obviously a lot of people have been calling for Arsenal to improve their attacking options, over the summer transfer window. Should we be looking within our existing, like youth people that we've got in our academy? There's a lot of talent there. Katie Reid proving that. Michelle Aguiman could definitely be one that Renee Slager's kind of looks to. Obviously, she's not had any time really under Renee, has she, with her being on loan? So it's going to be a summer where Renee gets to not only see her at the Euros, but also probably see her in pre-season and kind of look at that a little bit more. It'd be nice to see her get some minutes going into the start of next season. But yeah, lots to look forward to. Obviously, all the other players as well that are going to be included. Mariona obviously being selected for Spain. We're still getting news here and there about certain players. Obviously, we'll update you on the Gooner as much as we can about that. And we'll have lots of obviously content coming out across the next few weeks and across the summer as well. Other young talent, we've got the under-19s Lionesses squad being selected. I just wanted to point out how much fantastic youth we have. Six of our young gunners are called up. Well, Leslie Smith, Maddie Earle, Vivian Leah, Jessie Gale, Layla Harbour, and obviously Katie Reid, who we mentioned. So lots to look forward to in over the summer from these Arsenal players. It is a long shot and it is a long way till the Euros still. But is there anyone that you're kind of either looking forward to watching or think is going to have a fantastic sort of summer at the Euros? Any early predictions in terms of Arsenal players that might stand out over the summer?
I'd really like to see Mariona get her flowers for Spain because I feel like she works tirelessly within that side and has always been such a kind of reliable player for them, but I don't think that she maybe gets the kind of attention that other players. I mean, she's very humble. She doesn't want that attention, but you kind of see Bon Mati and Pateas getting all the kind of love from the fans and all the recognition for the same kind of work that Mariona's been doing all along, quite quietly in the background. So, not saying I'd like to see Spain win the Euros, obviously, but if Spain are doing well, which we assume that they will be, I'd like to see Mariona get some recognition for all the hard work that's gone in for her. And I think from coming to the WSL, she's maybe made a little bit more of a name for herself, especially amongst kind of a bigger kind of international fan base. So that'll be exciting to see if she gets some recognition. But obviously, I'd love to see England do well. I'm not feeling particularly confident after the last performance, and we obviously have a really horrible group. But it'd be fantastic to see England get out of that group and try and repeat what happened in 2022.
Yeah, definitely. We're coming into that awful scenario where if Mariona scores the winner against England, we're kind of like, well, it's going to feed into Mariona's sort of contention, early contention for being up for the Ballon d'Or or even more awards in that sense. But at the same time, would we do it at the expense of England sort of losing the game? So it's interesting to see. Obviously, that's based on the assumption that England will be successful. We really can't call it, especially like you say, France, Netherlands, Wales, that group that we've got to get out of first before we even consider later on in the tournament. And Spain, obviously, a fantastic team, and so many others as well. I mean, Germany have impressed in the Nations League, like I mentioned earlier. Sweden, excited to hopefully see more from Stina Blackstenius. Obviously, all of the Lionesses as well. Lee Williamson, like you say, captain in that side, so good at that role as well. So, and Chloe Kelly, hopefully her redemption, maybe another moment from her, or maybe that's just kind of asking for a little bit too much there. But lots of content coming up over the summer. But it's been a quiet one this week. We will keep you updated with anything that sort of happens over the next few weeks. But lots of kind of content that's going to be coming out during the Euros, kind of covering all those Arsenal players. So make sure you are following Gooner on all socials. That's where everything will be, and obviously there'll be lots of pieces coming out here and there. So looking forward to that. But thank you for joining me, Izzy. You can go back and enjoy your holiday. And yeah, we'll catch up with you guys very soon.
Yeah, cheers, Daisy.